Today, Joan and I are at the Dunlawton Plantation, right not too far from the campground in South Daytona Beach shores. And we've never been here before, but we hear that there's beautiful gardens and the old historic sugar mill that's here. So it's gonna be fun to look at. Well, Joan and I are still down in the Daytona Beach area, and we thought we would just come out for some nature today. And boy, are we in some nature. Right down from the campground where we're staying, there's a place here called Dunlawton, and it's an old sugar mill. It's absolutely gorgeous down here, so we're going to walk down to the ruins and see what exists. This is the old sugar factory here, and there's some remnants of it. There's really a lot of stuff here. I'll just kind of pan and let you see these gardens. Now these gardens, this is January, so we're still seeing a lot of things in bloom, and it looks like old Florida. See all the Spanish moss and all that hanging down, the old cedars and so forth. We're gonna take a little trip around here. We understand there's some dinosaurs around. And this gives us a little history of the old sugar factory here. I think the sugar factory, if I remember reading it right, the sugar factory was acquired in 1838. Here's the remnants of the old sugar making mill. And one of the interesting things, you don't see a lot of this anymore. It's just only in these old buildings. If you look at the structure here, it's just a mixture of old coquina and brick for firing the ovens. And here you can see the big massive kettles where they would transfer the liquid. Look at the size of these kettles, they're massive. This first one right here, it's still a bit in the shadows here, but this first one right here, oh, it's probably about 5 feet across, quite substantial. And over here is the steam engine. Look at this. It's amazing that a lot of remnants of this old steam engine are here after 100 and something years, 170, 180 years. Look at this. It is quite substantial. You can see all the big gears up through there. Look at that. And the brick and the coquina structure keep it in place. And here's the crusher right up here. Look at that. All that down through here, all of that, that's all coquina. Well, this is a massive, massive sugar mill, and where they crush the cane. Joan's dad had a little small crusher that used to sit out in their front yard. He loved his sugar cane, didn't he?
He did. He grew it.
He grew it and would crush it. And of course, it was nothing like this big monstrosity here, but Joan and her daddy would have their molasses, that's for sure. Look at this thing. It really is amazing to see just how this has survived over those 100+ years, 170, 180 years, something like that. And there's some old graffiti here from a time gone back when it wasn't well taken care of, but just look at this machine here, this crusher. Probably up to the top of that gear is probably 16, 17, 18 feet, and those rollers that were crushing that juice, you would see it would come and flow down through here, down in these vats below where it was ladled out. And then just looking here on both sides you see these kettles. Let's see if we can get a little closer to one over here. Again, look at all this old coquina. Look at that. A lot of it's still here, a mixture of coquina and brick. I imagine the coquina would not sustain itself well around the hot kettles. Now, you know, they had fires going up underneath these kettles, so that's the reason you're seeing the brick. But look at these things, they're massive. They're huge. Absolutely huge. And then on the other side, we'll walk around on the other side, you can actually see where the fires were built to boil it down into a syrup and then eventually into a sugar. But here's some more of the kettles here. Look at these things. And then according to the drawings, on the other side of the room over here was a big area where they would feed the sugar. So this gives you a good idea here. You can see how the kettles, again, now think about these kettles. They're, 1830s, 1840s, and survived after all that period. So you can see here where the kettles would sit around in that area, and you can see from the outside where the fires were fed to boil it down into a molasses and then eventually into a brown sugar. There's a good bit of the structure still left after all these years. Again, a mixture of coquina and local stone and brick. All right, Joan and I are going to kind of walk around in the gardens. They're beautiful, and it's a gorgeous, gorgeous day here in South Daytona Beach shores for January.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? You're running around here in shirt sleeves. This is crazy.
No idea that there was anything like this over here.
I know. We've been coming here since we were teenagers and have never seen any of this stuff. Shame on us, but we're going to do it now. Oh, these gardens are gorgeous. And here's that outside on the other side of the kettles. You can't quite make it out where we were walking just a few minutes ago, but that's where the fires were maintained. This had to be an awful environment to work in. Just awful. Awful, awful, awful. Well, the gardens are gorgeous. And we are going to, here's what they call the proofing room. That was down here. This is where they kept, at one point in time, where the sugar was kept over there. There you go. You can actually walk over here. So there was a building here, brick and coquina, and that's where the barrels were made with all the brown sugar, and eventually went down to what they call Mosquito Inlet, and it's now Ponce Inlet, and the sugar was sent up to Charleston. The grounds are beautiful, beautiful. I am thinking this is a live oak that is incredibly old. I call this old Florida. Joan hears me say that all the time, where you have all the old Spanish moss, and look at the ferns growing on this thing. The base of this must be, I don't know, maybe 6.5, 7 feet across. It is one old fella right there.
It's a big one.
It is big. The grounds are spectacular, aren't they?
Yeah.
There's your dinosaur. See him? We'll walk by him over there. See the dinosaur? That's from when this was I think this was called Bongo Land or something like that. It was some type of a amusement attraction at one time. It's beautiful, beautiful gardens. Just continuing our stroll through the gardens, and it's pretty. Again, this is January, and it's just absolutely still gorgeous and comfortable to walk around. I can only imagine what springs look like. The plantation was somewhere up in this area and was destroyed in 1836 in the Second Indian War with the Seminoles and never recovered. That was a Seminole War, cost the United States $19 million in today's time. How about that? 4 times the amount paid to Spain for the entire state of Florida. How about that? I think there were actually 2 Seminole Wars. There's something down here, Joan. Let's see what that is. Well, if you come into the forest, you're going to see gnomes and fairies, aren't you?
That's what history tells us.
Santa Gnome still hasn't left the dwelling here even in January. And this is the gnome's home, and then I think that there is a fairy village over here on the side of this tree. Cute. There you go. There they are. The little fairy village. The fairy high-rise. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, I bet they have weddings in here, Joan. Yeah, that's what this is. What a pretty, look at your backdrop here. All right, brides-to-be. Joan is up here wanting us to have our vows. I do, Joan. How about you? Do you still do? After all these years? You still do. You done and still do. You're so sweet. It's pretty. Here we go. Coming out of the chapel, Joan caught this. I think this is, yeah, this is very similar to what your dad had, but only a smaller version of it, where you would grab the old handles here and grind the sugar. Yeah, this is very much like the one your dad had. Just your dad's was about this size too. Mm-hmm. And had the big handle. And yes, both Joan and I have turned the handle to grind the cane at one point in time, but it was very much like that, except yours, the one that your dad had, was inside of a case. And that one probably was in a case too. And it looks like the case is gone, but you can actually see you can see where the cane is fed in here and would be crushed. Mm-hmm. How cool is that?
He just crushed it for the juice.
Yeah, he just drank the cane juice.
And
I don't ever remember him making molasses or anything like that.
Either.
He just drank that cane juice. It was pure sugar water too, wasn't it?
It was. He loved it. The kids, not so much.
Not so much. Let's see what's down this way. Old tourist area. Look at here, Joan. A triceratops. Look at that. Look at that. This is from I think the 40s and 50s.
Look at the big elephant ear plants.
I know, and even with it being January, you can still see there's things in bloom, but giant elephant ears. Look at these things are massive. You know, the old theme park place. So the whole grounds have changed now, where you had all those old live oaks, and then where Joan and I are at now, there's just palm trees everywhere, all over the place. Bongo land. Here's just some remnants of bongo land. This is too funny. Look at all this stuff. We're coming close to the end of our little trek through here of the Dunlawton Plantation and the gardens. It's free. It's maintained, I think, by the county, and lots of volunteers. You see plaques about where people have made donations and doing things to keep this pretty and make it available for everybody to enjoy free. You don't see a lot of that at the beach. There's not a lot of free at the beach.
No.
But we have it here. And so the grounds are stunning. It's beautiful and historic. And I like both of those things.
I wonder what this little building does.
Neat little elements. And this is the Gardener's Library. This was moved here from Orange City and brought here to the property to be maintained, and a little historical reference. We finished at the gardens, Dunlawton Plantation, and the beautiful gardens, dinosaurs, big trees.
Yeah.
Pretty stuff. Free. We love free. If you get a chance to come to South Daytona Beach shores, look, just come down here for an hour walk and just enjoy some pretty nature. It's worth the trip. Some kind of pretty, isn't it?
It is some kind of pretty.
Some kind of pretty. Well, while Joni and I was out riding around looking at the old sugar plantations, we talked to another individual, and he said, drive down to New Smyrna. It's only about 15 minutes down the road. And he said, you'll find another plantation down there. It's in a state park. It's called the Cruger-dePeyster Sugar Mill and Plantation. So we took us a little drive down, not too far. And here's the old ruins for this one. We came into the park here from up at right on the edge of New Smyrna, and this is the remnants of the old sugar mill. Again, you can look at all the coquina stone. Joan's checking out her Indian heritage here. She thinks she might have some Seminole along with some creek. Let's walk up here and look at the plantation. This is not as well defined as the one down in Daytona Beach or Port Orange down there, but you can still see a lot of the remnants here where the old ovens were at. Still have some kettles over there that we'll see. You can see all the old coquina structure. Well, in addition to seeing the old structure, there's some beautiful nature trails. We're kind of running out of time today. We won't be able to do that. But there are some pieces of the old building. Think about this, 1830s. It's been here a long time, a long time. And this looks like the well. Probably remnants where the old machine was at. You can still see some of the old pots here. Look at these things. They're huge. And you can tell it was abandoned for a long time. You can see where they've cut the trees that grew up. You know, that tree there is probably 80, 90 years old, so you can tell it was abandoned for a long time. But the big old steel pots, cast iron pots. So this was a smaller operation than what we saw. At some point in time, the old crusher, they've got a picture of it here. I don't know how long ago that was, but the crusher was here. And then here, of course, was what they call the kettle room. This was about half the size of the one up in Daytona. And I wondered if this one had an engine house to be able to run the mill. And this is the remnants of the old engine house here. You can kind of see where the steam bellows would have resided, and see where the old chimney that was located here. And this is quite a structure still remaining after all these years. Look at this arch opening going inside of it. Quite an operation. Still some really interesting elements left over from the 1830s. You can still see right across the top. See how black it is? I'm sure that's probably charred from when the roof was burned, when the Seminoles raided this area in 1836. Kind of interesting. Also interesting too, you can tell how long it was abandoned. Now think about this. This was what they call the purgery. You can actually see some structure going down through here to where they'd have wooden slats and the barrels would sit on it, and this is where they would keep the barrels of the sugar. But that tree is probably a good 4 feet across, 3.5 feet across. So that thing, you know, seeded and grew after this place was abandoned. So until they cut that down for, you know, almost 100 years, you can tell how long this place had been abandoned. Quite a long time. Interesting old Florida history. Well, this is the last on our sugar plantation tour and seeing the old mills. It's kind of interesting.
It's a much smaller place than we saw before.
Yeah, not as well. The building's a little bit more defined, but just not the pretty gardens and so forth. This is about it. You've got a few trails. Hey, you want to spend a nice afternoon looking at some fun stuff that's free and catch a little bit of early 1800 history? Come check out the sugar mills and the old plantations. Something kind of neat to see.